Michael, without going into too much detail over the midweek match, in a previous interview I'd said to you that wanting to win is great, but you have to grind out results. And you certainly managed to grind out a point in very, very difficult circumstances. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, we're delighted with the reaction to going behind in the game. It wasn't easy. We obviously, the team that we picked was I think stretched a little bit with the injuries that we'd had leading into the game, and I think you saw that way. The bench we were bringing on a 19 and a 20-year-old, and obviously Tyrese as well, a 22-year-old, all young players. And I thought the young players gave us a lift at a key moment in the last 15-20 minutes. And it was great to get the goal. We had obviously a great chance before that to equalise that we didn't take. And yeah, look, I think it was a point gain for us, because obviously it looked possibly as if the game was slipping away from us.
Sunderland come to the stadium tomorrow. They'll be really up for it. They've just been promoted. They're on a roll. You know how much momentum means in this game.
Yeah.
How do you see it panning out tomorrow?
Yeah, look, it'll be another game, I think, where it'll be tight. You're right, they've stepped up. I think they've had a good start from a promoted side as well. We have to be honest. I think everyone knows Sunderland's a big club. They'll come with a big away support. And that should make for, hopefully a vociferous afternoon where, the competitive game. But I think for us, we have to, focus on, this is our third game at home. We've obviously had a win and a draw at home. I think, it's an opportunity for us to put another 3 points on the board. I think performance-wise, there was aspects of the performance, obviously, that we can do better in from the game on Wednesday night. But, as I say, when we look back at the game against Blackpool, overall, we got a chance to take 7 points from 3 games at home, which I think is a good return.
Fosu had his first outing for the club. What did you feel he contributed?
I thought he did well, really, considering that we only really signed him the day before, and he had one brief training session with the team, and he's getting to know the players. I think, again, he's playing out there against Giles, who would be one of the more highly regarded left-sided players in this league, and what he brings, I think, good quality. He brings an energy about his play, and also he brings speed on that side of the pitch as well. So overall, I thought he did well in the game, and we expect more from him going forward.
Bit of good news this week. You finally found room for Liam Delap in your squad.
Yeah.
What's he brought to the club? Because you've probably only just seen him in 1, maybe 2 training sessions. What's he brought to the club?
I think it was a question that I was being asked on a daily basis, basically, about Liam, and I think it's great for us that we've been able to do it. I think he was on a lot of clubs' radar, which always makes competition for those kind of players that little bit more difficult. But I think we're delighted to get him in. He's obviously a young player with a big reputation, but we have to remember that he is a young player as well. He would have grown up watching Stoke, obviously, with his dad playing here, so he has an affiliation to the club as well. And what he brings, we've seen him obviously in the flesh playing, but in terms of actually working with him on the training pitch, I think you see why there is the excitement about him. He's obviously got great physique. He's got great technique. He's a good finisher, and he's itching to play first team football. He's obviously at a club where it's a very, very difficult thing to get. So he'll get the opportunity here to play, and I'm sure he'll be keen to take it.
When I saw the interview of him with our media team here at the club, his enthusiasm and his delight to have joined Stoke City was great. You must have noticed his enthusiasm since you've been working with him, which has been a short time. Yeah,
look, I think that was evident from when we met him, actually, that he, as I say, this is a club. I think when you go on loan, and particularly your first loan, having familiarity is a good thing, and obviously. Not the fact that his dad's part of the coaching staff, but the fact that he knew Andy Cousins, for example. I had met Liam, and he obviously has an affiliation with the club, as I mentioned previously. All of those are factors. Plus, for a young player as well, he's not relocating or having to do anything like that, you know. And all of those are factors, I think, that help younger players in particular when they do go out on loan. You know, we've seen younger players here come on loan, maybe struggle to settle. They're moving from sometimes a different country, sometimes a different part of the country, and you know, it takes them a while to get into the swing of things. I think with Liam, we won't have that difficulty. I think he'll hit the ground running and you know, show us his quality.
Given that you've got so many players out, you're missing Powell, Timon, Loran, Suter and Clark. That's a huge amount of your squad early doors. How difficult is it for you now to pick a team tomorrow?
Yeah, it is difficult when you have those players out, because we've built, you know, obviously the players that you mentioned. We knew Harry, obviously. We knew we'd have to cope without Harry. We didn't expect to cope with Nick, obviously, being out the way he was injured in pre-season. But like Harry Clark and Josh Timon were key to, obviously, we brought Harry at the club and Josh to how we would want to play. So losing them both so early is a blow. Josh Laurent being out again, you know, gives us, I think, a physical presence that we felt based on previous seasons we needed in midfield. So those are factors which, you know, I think we have to recognise will hurt us. But that's why you have a squad. You know, other people get the opportunity to step in. I think, you know, like Jordan Thompson's been commendable in his attitude to playing as a left wing back. Tarek's come in and played. Young Tom Sparrow, obviously, having played at Huddersfield and coming on, you know, in the other night in the game, give us an energy as well. And I just think that, you know, whilst it's difficult to go without players of that nature, it provides opportunity. And you know, that's key. This is a very young squad, and so we're asking a lot of them in certain situations, and certainly, you know, the game the other night was a test for them.
I'm almost dreading asking this question. Are there any more injuries after the midweek game?
No, no more injuries from the game. We have just a slight concern about Ben Wilmot, who will undergo a fitness test before tomorrow's game.
And Gail is okay?
Yeah, Dwight's okay. I think we just got to manage Dwight a little bit, because his first minutes of pre-season would have been against Hearts, which was obviously, so he's played a lot of football in a short space of time, which I think he needed, but also, you know, it comes at a risk of fatigue, and fatigue obviously increases the risk of injury, so we just got to manage him a little bit. So but yeah, I was pleased obviously what he gave us again in the game on Wednesday. Given
the amount of injuries and the change of personnel, will you look at keeping the same formation, or will you have to maybe change the formation of the team?
Well, look, those are things you always have to consider with injury. I think we've built a squad designed to play in a certain way, and we've signed players of a certain type. So it's not just as easy to suddenly, you know, spend 6 weeks from pre-season working on something and then just rip it up, so we always have to be mindful that potentially we could change the system, but the system is consistent in this league as well. There's a lot of teams playing it, yeah, I don't envisage that we will be, you know, looking in that direction at this minute in time.
There'll be a lot of teams who look at the squad with Tyrese Campbell, Jacob Brown, who's scoring goals. Now you've got Delap and Gale. That forward four will be the envy of many clubs. You could almost say, if you're not defending well, you might be able to outscore them.
Yeah.
But given that you're having so many injuries, are you looking to see what's causing those injuries, or do you just put it all down to bad luck?
Well, if you look at the injuries that we've had, most of them have happened in games. So that's an occupational hazard, really. It's not. They're not soft tissue injuries. So they're injuries. The ankle injuries that both Joshes have are a result of playing in games. Harry Clark's stress fracture is possibly maybe down to the intensity of the games. Maybe that's something which he has to cope with a little bit. And obviously Nick Powell's was a tackle. Harry Suter's is a cruciate, so that can happen at any point in the game. I think you always have a concern if you're picking up a lot of soft tissue injuries. So the players are well managed by the medical team, and we're obviously in a situation where we're now playing a lot as well, you know, so the recovery time, the training time of the players is very minimal, because we're asking them to play Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and that's something that we manage. Next week we'll get a full week, so we'll get a little bit more training into them than we have done, which will help us, I think. But certainly, yeah, we look at all the injuries and do quite a lot of analysis on it, because ultimately we want as fit a squad as possible. We did take that into consideration when we brought players to the club. We focused quite a bit on the age profile and the previous injury history of players as well, as always a big factor before we make any decisions on players.
And Ben Wilmot's injury, was that as a result of the game?
Well, not directly, no. I mean, he's trained today, he's complained of some soreness in his foot. We'll just have to assess that in the morning. The actual medical condition or term of it, I haven't got the exact prognosis for that at the minute.
The second half, there was a lot of dissent from the supporters in the crowd. Understandably, when you pay money, you expect to be entertained, etc., etc. How does that impact on the players, especially the younger players, when they go in after a match?
Yeah, I think it does affects all players, I think, but it certainly affects younger players, possibly more so, who are less conditioned to that. I think, you know, if I looked at the squad that we had today, we had 18 players training, and we had 9 players that were under 22. So that tells you, you know, we always do a little bit of a young v old scenario on a Friday in the early part of the session, and the fact that like Jordan Thompson and Jacob Brown are in the old group always tells you the age profile of your squad a little bit. So yeah, I think that, look, they have to get resilient to that as players. You know, you have to be brave, you have to take the ball. We want to be a team that plays, and so we're asking that of the players, and ultimately, you know, the supporters play a huge part in that, because, you know, they hopefully can be patient with the team, and they can, you know, get behind, particularly the younger players. I think, you know, their frustrations I understand, but they saw a team that went right to the end, and a 20-year-old came off the bench and scored with a header. So I think there's positive things that they should recognise. This is a different squad of players from maybe what they've seen in the past few years in the Championship, and you know, like anything, and any young player needs encouragement, whether it's from the coaching staff, whether it's from the media, because they read the media and they react to that as well, and ultimately from the supporters as well. And, you know, but as I said all along, you know, that's a relationship that has to be built, and we have to work hard to build that relationship as well. And
now that you've got presumably as many people as you can in your squad, is there a likelihood of any more coming in, or is it more concentrating on perhaps getting 1 or 2 out?
I think, you know, anything we would do going forward would be dependent on players leaving as well. We do feel that there's still one area of the pitch that we could possibly have another option. But again, as I say, I would imagine that would be dependent on someone leaving. So we just got to see what happens in the last remaining, you know, couple of weeks of the window.
Thank you.
Michael, taking into account all the injuries you've got, are we likely to see Liam Delap starting?
Well, look, he's only been in the building 2 days. We have to manage him. He's not played a lot of minutes in pre-season, but a young player probably can handle that situation. You know, young players, their enthusiasm for the game maybe supersedes that. So yeah, he's got a chance to start, and we have to look at that as a possibility. We also have to look at the fact that, you know, we've got Campbell, Brown, we've got Gale, who's obviously played 2 games this week already, Brown that's played. So those are all factors when you come to pick your starting 11.
Can be a bit of a juggling act though, but do you take into account the opposition that you're going to be facing where you might look at your team selection?
Of course, yeah. Look, I think our main focus is on ourselves, but we know what Sunderland are about. Obviously, we know Danny Batt has gone there and played, so we know Danny well, and we've also got a good insight, I think. You know, Paul Walsh previously and John O'Shea were both at Sunderland, so we've got a familiarity with the players, information on the players. I think we would look more at, you know, particularly I think the style of play of a team or the system of a team, as opposed to, you know, the actual individuals within the team. But there's always things that you try and find an advantage in that.
from Sunderland's point of view, of course, they made the change with Alex Neil coming in. Do you expect to see a different formation as to where they were? They come up, they've got the momentum in many ways. Is it a side that you've had done the research on, which you will obviously have because you've got people in the building that have been there? Is that helpful?
Yeah, it's always helpful to have a little bit more familiarity. You know, we tend to work on we always have someone that is at the last game. So we always have a scout at the last game, for example, and obviously we have a lot of video on there's no hiding place now. There's a lot of video on all the opposition, so we know what to expect. We give the players, an outline of how the opposition play and how we expect them to, aspects that are consistent in their play and key players within their system of play as well. And all of that leads to, I think, helping the players in terms of the preparation of the game. But ultimately, our level of performance will be determined by ourselves, and it'll be determined how we play on the day. We have to overcome the opposition, obviously, but as I say, we've tended to focus very much on ourselves as much as possible.
You already touched on about the amount of crowd they're going to bring, so the atmosphere here really will be electric from both sides, because the home fans will really want to get the momentum with you, but they have an incredible following, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Look, I've seen it firsthand when I used to go to games as an international manager, and I'd some players at Sunderland in League One, and I was always amazed that they basically, nearly every away game was like a home game for them. They could fill out, huge travel and support. But that'll add to the game. As I say, our focus is on playing at a level that keeps the away fans quiet, and obviously invigorates our own fans and makes sure that we get the backing of our own fans. But it's good, everyone wants to play, and the stadium's as full as possible, and as I say, we look forward to a good atmosphere tomorrow.
Finally, so for me, Michael, the transfer window is in towards the final throes of it, really. Are you possibly going to lose players, send players out on loan, or is that something that you will, as and when, look at it as it appears?
I think, outs are always determined by, elsewhere, really. I think we know the situation with Peter Etebo, for example. We know some of the younger players have already gone on loan, and some other younger players may go before the end of the window. It's just finding whether that's the right thing for the younger players at this minute in time. So there was the potential for some players to possibly go out on loan, but equally there's the option if it comes in if there's a permanent departure, we would consider that as well.
Thank you, Michael.
Although it was disappointing to see the Stoke fans streaming away towards the end of the Middlesbrough game, you must have been delighted by the fact that your players kept going to the end and finally got an equaliser. That must have pleased you.
Yeah, it showed. I think they showed really good character, and they showed really good commitment, and it's something probably we haven't done enough of. So it's something that you want in your makeup, and I think we possibly thought our chance of salvaging something from the game when the chance before happened, and Lewis, get on the end after Jacob's shot saved. But to have that belief and to go again, I think is a good trait to have in our personality as a team. And it was Lewis then that picked himself up and puts a great ball in for DiMaggio to score. So yeah, we're delighted with that, because I think it shows that we have a lot of good characteristics in this young squad.
You talked about belief there. Do you think the players had the belief earlier in the game, or did they only really get it towards the end?
I think the scoreline is always, I think, affects belief within the game, and it affects the atmosphere within the stadium. So it's always easier playing at 2-0 up than it is playing at 2-0 down, for example, psychologically for the players. But it's something we speak about quite a bit. I talk to the players about to control the psychology of the game, and to do that you have to try and get the upper hand in the game. We probably scored a little bit on the counter attack in the last night, in the game on Wednesday rather. But then we had the chance almost to go 2 ahead before half time, and then we lost a goal. That probably gave them a little bit of a lift coming out for the second half. But we stayed in the game. We had to fight to stay in the game, and ultimately we took something from the game. So we take a lot from that.